Well, that's the first time I got a live stream notification.
Oh, we're on Facebook?
Yes.
Yes. All right, we're recording and we're live on Facebook and we're good to go. We got all of our panelists check. Awesome. It's 6 o'clock.
Happy days.
All right, so welcome everyone. We thank you for taking some time and joining us this evening for our panel discussion on how to leverage events to grow your business and increase sales. My name is Donalisa Stinyard and I'm the program director with the Center for Women Entrepreneurs. And we also have Tracy Irby on. So Tracy, would you like to say hi?
Hi, everyone.
So real quick, the Center for Women Entrepreneurs was funded by the Texas legislature in 2015 to help women start and grow their business. And of course, we do that through our funding and programs like these, as well as free business advising. And the Center for Women Entrepreneurs is part of the larger JNIWL. So that's the Jane Nelson Institute of Women's Leadership that is dedicated to preparing women to take on successful roles in business and public service. And we do that through helping them establish careers as successful C-suite executives, the skills for building entrepreneurial businesses, and the framework needed to run for public office. And so I am going to get started. I'm going to turn it over to Tracy, and or let's have the panelists introduce themselves first, I guess. So we will do that. Kimberly.
Sure. Thank you, Donalisa. My name is Kimberly Bien, and I am the owner and creator at Salted Sanctuary Soap. I make cold processed soap and natural skincare products with skin loving ingredients. I formed my business in 2012, and I'm coming up on my 10th anniversary is upcoming. And I estimate that I've done well over 600 shows.
Wow. A lot.
Awesome. Lisa.
I'm going to learn a lot from you, Kimberly. Hi, I'm Lisa Bass. I'm with Combat Boots Jewelry, and that's exactly what it is. Combat boots made into jewelry. So I incorporated in 2019, and I had 3 trademarks on the Combat Boots Jewelry and the logos. I like to say if they see it, they feel it, they buy it. So the vendor event shows are my biggest money makers.
Perfect. And Lynn?
Hi, I'm Lynn Wilford Scarborough, and my company currently is Cheeza, Pleeza, and we make gourmet chunky cheese spreads and dips that are in keto with a lot of different flavors. We sell through different stores in the area, but also through farmers markets and events. Prior to that, I was in television news. I was a television news consultant and used to train people in the news business, and anybody who was in crisis media, I would train them how to be on camera and how to speak. So, and I'm out of the Dallas area and glad to be here.
Right.
Awesome. Tracy.
Okay, well, such a great crowd. We're so glad you're all here tonight for us. So first of all, I want to ask, how do you choose the events that you're going to attend? And then what kinds work best for your business? Lynn, I see you right there in the middle. So
Okay.
if you want to answer that one, that'd be great.
Well, let me address first of all for the Cheeza Pleeza, for the packaged good, for specialty food. The events that I choose are based upon whether I'm going to make the sales or not. Is there a crowd? Is there a way for me to make money? Because I do markets to help create and build the bottom line. But the second reason that I choose an event is I'll choose it for a marketing opportunity. Let's say breaking into a new market. So I've got to see what it's like. When I was a news consultant, I would go to bigger trade events because one, I needed to network, or two, I needed to sell, but three, I wanted to do research. What was the market like? Was there an opportunity? And after you go to research, see what the competition's like, see what's going to cost me to do it, and to evaluate whether the opportunity is worth the amount of time, energy, and how much money it's going to cost you.
Great, great. Kimberly.
I agree with that. I kind of start assessing who their client base is, who is going to attend that show, what kind of show is it? I sell natural skincare products, and so I'm primarily at farmers markets or curated craft shows. And I might not set up at a gun show, but I might set up at a natural living exhibit. And so that's one of the first things I look at. The second thing I look at is how is this show marketed? A lot of shows, like, everybody needs to, especially right now, everybody is trying to earn their rent on their space. And so there's so many shows. We're very saturated with shows right now. Mm-hmm. And so a lot of these venues are making their money from the vendors and not necessarily bringing in the clientele. So if I'm going to be the one bringing in the customers to them, but I'm not assuming new customers, which has happened. And then you learn to address that with experience. And so I'm looking for that sort of thing. Are they advertising it? Is there a marketing budget? And sometimes not. Sometimes it's a small, intimate, grassroots kind of event, but usually that is known prior to going in.
Great. Great. And it's nice to see different things that you guys look forward to and experience that you have. Lisa, how about you? How do you choose the events you attend, and what works best for your business?
So with mine, starting out new in 2019, I mean, I was just going to any event as far as veterans. So I have a very niche market with the veteran or active duty community. And so what I learned from my experiences is I don't like to do resource shows. So we have a lot of veteran events with just resources because they're giving out free resources to help a veteran. That is not a good fit for my business because resources means free. And so what I've found and where my money makers are those veteran events where they have to pay to get in. So it's not even as much as the advertisement for us, because usually with veterans, they're going to all come in if they know there's a big event. My surprising event was I was invited from one event to a VFW event, and there was like over 200 males and maybe 5 females that were service members versus the spouses. And so like they just see me, I was the only one. It was in another city. I didn't really know, but I was invited. So I try to, do good by returning the invite. So I go the first night, I'm just standing in the corner. It's in a VFW. And it was a motorcycle rally. And so the second night, they were given a class and I asked, could I have 5 minutes to speak? And so when they let me speak for 5 minutes, then everybody, those guys understood who I was. I wasn't just some girl in the corner selling jewelry, that I was actually a 20-year veteran myself. And the women that were there, because I acknowledged them, on them being that they serve their country too. Right then, and my jewelry goes to support a program called In Her Boots. And so those were for active duty service members. And when they understood the purpose behind the jewelry, then the sales went up immediately. So I go for those events that they do charge to get in and that the veteran community is out there and they're spending money.
Great, great. And it's great you learned to tell a story that made the difference. Yes, Lynn. You're on mute. You're on mute, Lynn.
I'm unmute now.
There you go.
Okay. If I could add to what Lisa and Kimberly mentioned, I've done lots of events, but what's happened is in the area, Dallas area, like Kimberly said, we have become so oversaturated with markets that were successful for me 5 years ago, I've had to vacate them because they don't make the sort of money, because the promoters are about selling the restaurants in their area rather than on promoting the individual vendors that are there for the show. And I totally concur with what you said, Kimberly. We just have to be wise, and you have to be able to pivot and cut your losses and get the hell out of Dodge if you're in a market that isn't producing for you.
Right. Great addition to that. Okay, Kimberly, the next one. What type of planning and preparation do you do before an event, and what do you bring?
The first thing I do is start with my calendar and making sure that I'm available and assessing whether or not I need help. For example, sometimes I need help with a tent or the structure. And I look for events that I don't need that I can be inside or in a covered area. It's a little bit easier for me. So I do that. I start planning what I'm going to bring based on the client base. For example, if I'm doing an event where it might have a more mature customer base, I might not bring something that's really slippery in the shower kind of thing. So I plan my product based on the customer base there. And also include a variety of things just because you never know who's going to be there. And then what do I bring? I have a big checklist. Starting with the top of show, I'll bring my tent and then anything to support it and keep it secure. I am very logistically and safety minded. And so I bring the stakes, I bring the weights, I bring a first aid kit. But then there are other categories, like I need tablecloths, I need props, I need a register drawer, cash, change, business cards. How are you going to, most people pay it with card, so you need your Square or whatever digital device you use to take payment, and everything needs to be charged. And a key thing that I have learned the hard way is that I also need to be charged. I don't need to stay up until midnight getting creative juices at 11:30. I need to be well rested and hydrated and take care of myself. And I pack accordingly to prepare for a show of how I'm going to unpack it. Like usually I know kind of in advance how I'm going to set it up, as far as how much space I might have. And so for efficiency, because usually you only have a pocket of time to get ready. So I prepare so that I can unload and very quickly put it together. And then zhuzh when there's time.
Great. Those are all great information. I like that. I wrote down too. I did like that you did the first aid kit, and somebody else commented on that as well, because you've got to be prepared for everything. That's for sure. Okay. Lynn, what type of planning and preparation do you do, and what kinds of things do you bring?
Well, I agree with the whole preparing the list, especially the day before. The better, if I set out the coffee, my vitamins, and what I'm taking to eat at the market, the night before, I'm great, as well as laying out my clothes. It's just being smart. But with the food business, there's a couple other things that you have to remember. I do samples. And when you are dealing with food and sampling, you have to have permits from the city or the county that you're dealing with. So that takes preparation ahead of time, as well as you have to have your licenses and everything with you, because if you have the food when the inspector comes around to check and make sure that your samplers are cold, if they're not cold and you don't have your thermometer to check it, you're basically getting everything that's on the table whoop into the trash can. And I've lost samples that way because I was 2 degrees off temperature when the inspection came. So you have to know, if you're dealing with food and those sorts of things, you have to have your licenses, you have to have prepared, and you have to prepare your people. For example, you have to have your gloves. I will take samples and have them in cups ahead of time that I'm ready, so it doesn't have I can't touch anything. I don't want to do open sampling where I'm serving people there at the event, because that's a whole nother having to have a hand wash station there. So there's all these things that they can help you, but it took a while for me to learn how to do it. And I wish I'd had somebody to say, do this, because it would have saved me a whole lot of heartache. But when you're dealing with food, totally different world. So get your permits and be prepared for what you're dealing with, especially with temperatures, and know what the city wants.
Okay, great. I just had a question. Do you have to show your sales tax permit? At the show?
I always have mine. I've only been asked for it 2 or 3 times, but I always carry it with me. It's always in, and I have multiple copies of it. So regardless of the setup box, I always have the licenses, the permits, even, those things with me at all times. And your insurance cards, people don't realize you've got to have insurance, liability insurance nowadays, to do the sort of things I do. I have to carry $2 million worth of insurance. And ahead of time, if I'm going to certain markets, I have to assign that market or that store as a signer on my insurance. So you have to, there's preparation that you have to do. You just can't just show up and say, hey, try my stuff, you'll like it. No, there's a lot more to it.
Okay, great. Kimberly, I think you had a comment on that as well. Was that?
Yes, most shows will say in their vendor guidelines whether or not they require for you to have it. It's always great to have it on you, but whether or not you should be presenting it on your table or at your display, the show will dictate that.
Great information. Thank you. Lisa, so what type of planning do you do before an event, and what all are you bringing?
So thank God I'm not into food. So with jewelry, it's a lot of backwards planning. So I have to, based on previous sales, and I have to go ahead and order my products, make sure the manufacturing, and then get them in and get them packaged before the event. Now, right before the event, we actually stage everything. Everything gets set up. So I cannot do an event by myself anymore. They get too big. The minute I set up, open the first thing, and they see the jewelry, they're going for it because it's unusual. And so we have to really be prepared. When we get in, we can just set up. So literally I have a huge ammo case that keeps the necklaces, and we just open it up. It's all ready to go. Then just pull in Houston and in Dallas on the same day. So that was a 2-week process of getting everything set up. My whole upstairs was set up with 2 different events, but it takes a lot of planning. You got to know where your displays are going to go. And that's why we stage it first. And so when we tear it down, each person knows where everything goes. I make them take pictures so they know where to set things up when we're going in. But mine is a lot of backwards planning because I've got to have that jewelry made in order to be able to sell it.
Okay, great. So you kind of answered for you how you display your products, but Kimberly, how do you display yours?
A multitude of ways, depending on the show. One of the things that I do is merchandise by category, meaning I'll put like items together. For example, the lavender collection will be together. So that if you want a bath salt, you probably want a scrub and a soap and a spray if you're into fragrance layering. But then I'll put other categories such as masculine scents together, because more than likely a male customer will not linger at the table. They're going to get in and get out. And so I'm prepared for that. And then another thing that I have over the years keep in mind is purse room. People come to your table, they will usually set their stuff down at the table so that they can pay you. Or there might be littles. And so I don't put anything near the edge. I try to keep like 4 to 5 inches back off the edge. And so I try to accommodate the customer as much as I can within my display.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And that,
Can I add to that? So with mine, in the same, jewelry, what a guy's going to run to it. They're not running to a vendor, for jewelry. They're going to walk on by. So with my staging, I actually have old stuff back from Vietnam era. And that brings a lot of guys over because they're interested in the field desk that I used to take to the field when I was a private, And so they come over because they're just like at awe of all the ammo cases. And people have come into the booths, if it's in a tent, go, oh my gosh. And they're smelling because it smells like a motor pool, and it gives them flashbacks, and stuff. So, but I do categorize, like I have sterling silver and my gold. I have a brothers in arms department, and that's how I bring the guys in, and then stainless steel in how our setup is.
Okay, great. All right, Lynn, and you've got a lot. How do you visually display yours?
It once again, I agree. It depends upon the show, whether I'm inside, outside, and also upon the season. Because if it is in the summer, what I have to do is I group my flavors according to like type. Like I put all the spicy together, I put all the savory together, I put all the sweet together, because people usually want one of those three categories, and then they'll venture outside that so that they can see them on the table. But what I do is I actually have, when it's warm, I just have little tissue paper things that people can do it, because during COVID, you had to go and wipe everything off every time everybody came through. But having signage is really important. I have signs up above behind me that basically list labels. I put signs on each corner of my tent, and also on the table and hanging up. So there's like 4 or 5 different places people can read, because I'll get lines of, like 5-10 deep. So people can be reading about what they want before they get to the table. So signage that they can read, grouping it there, but also putting it in a way so they can see the product, touch it. And I'm also integrating more visual pictures of how to use it, like in a burger, like in a pimento cheese sandwich. So once people can see it, they go, oh, I can do that. And nowadays, visual is so important. I really want to get a television screen so I can literally do a screenshot of the different ways to use the product, but I just haven't gotten there yet. But give me a few months. But I think the more visual you can be, demonstration for it, because people want to see it, touch it, smell it, everything.
Great.
So Tracy, we do have, we've had a couple people ask like how they find out about the different venues to sell at. We had one specific question, like she's in the perfume and scent business. So do we have time to answer that?
And you reckon Kimberly would?
Yes. I am the owner and creator of Salted Sanctuary Soap. I create soap and natural skincare products.
I think
I'm answering a question in the chat. I thought that's
Oh no. So can we talk a little bit about like how you find out the different like venues where you can sell your products?
How you find vendor events?
Yeah.
Absolutely. Different vendor groups. I've been doing it for a while. And so I'm at a point, like I said before, this is my 10th anniversary. And so I get probably 12 invites a day via email. And some of them I won't do, or I want to do them and they're just out of my area, or I'm committed to another show at that time. It's also word of mouth. The maker community is very strong. We share good shows and we share them with good vendors. And so like, to me, that's the most reliable thing, is word of mouth for makers or creators.
Okay, great. Lynn, do you have some ideas there?
Also check Facebook, Instagram. Look under, if you're, for me, I looked at, they have farmers markets, lists of farmers markets in the paper every year, but the number of farmers markets has gone from where we used to have about 15 good ones. Now we've got about 65 or 70 in the different area, and they're not all great, but you can look at that. And yes, talking to the other vendors, because every show I'm talking to other vendors. And you have to remember, one thing that's really important as a vendor at shows is you know, divas don't work. Divas will get frozen out. If you're a diva, you've got to go into a community situation with other vendors and be a friend, helpful, talking, because those other vendors will help sell your product and they'll tell you where to go.
All right.
In terms of shows.
Yeah. And Lisa, again, I know you're newer in it. So where, I mean, and of course you're looking for veteran things, but what other, when you first started, where were you finding vendor
Oh,
events?
I was looking to when there was an event for a veteran. I would on the Facebook issue. There's a lot of scams out there, so I would definitely research if you're on Instagram or Facebook, looking through those because they are out there, the scams. Now I'm to the point I just get invited. I know when my months are coming up, so my big months are like in June because it's Women Veterans Day, and then around in November. And that keeps us pretty busy just in those times. But I've already been invited from last year, looking out for this year, because you have to grab me. I can only be in so many places at one time. And so now I'm just on invite, which I like, because it reduces my load, but it is word of mouth. And I do agree about the diva thing. It is a community effort. I actually love doing vendors events when I can move away from my booth and talk to other people, and they will actually, that's how I get invited to other events, because they'll invite me, or a customer who's there, can you come to ours? So, but I would be aware of the scams that are out there.
Right. Great information from all of you. And there, I know on Facebook, on some of the others, there are pages that are just dedicated to vendor events. There are events on the web. If you just even Google that, lists different events and things that are coming up as well. So great information by all of you. So the next one, so I've done shows, a ton of shows too. That's why this one is, really a fun one to do. But what tips do you have for dealing with potential customers? And it's two-part. And how do you handle the bargain hunters? Lisa, I still have you in the middle. So do you want to address that one?
I don't have any, I have not had any issues with people trying to, bargain hunt. I mean, I have a product, and maybe it's just my attitude that I have. It's trademark. I have a product. You either, you want it or you don't. I'm like I said, you see it, you feel it, you buy it in the veteran community. So I have not had an issue with people trying to bargain with me or anything. They see the price. I've actually had people tell me that my prices were too low. So, I mean, I have to go back and relook at that. So I haven't had any issues in that area.
Okay, great. How about you, Kimberly? How do you deal with your potential customers? And
as far as meeting them and networking them, I try to be where they are. And that's engaging with them at a show, whether they're buying or not, through network marketing, as far as emails and social media, Instagram, Facebook. And I have recently joined TikTok just to kind of be out there and have fun with it. And that's something that I've been intimidated with for a long time, because this gray hair is real, but I'm having so much fun with it. And so I try to meet them where they're at, as far as communicating and getting new customers, and being where they're at. As far as bargaining, it doesn't happen that often. And occasionally you'll get somebody that comes up to the table and say, how much is this? And without a response, they'll leave. And so that's probably not my customer.
okay, great. A great way to know which ones those are as well. All right. How about you, Lynn?
Well, yeah, the people, the bargain hunters, they're not as rare. You get the occasional people that want to barter, and then some of them I let them barter me down. It's like one every couple weeks, but I have a premium product, And at markets, you get a lot of people. Sometimes you get a lot of single moms, you get veterans, you get older people on fixed incomes, you get very hungry teenagers that legitimately don't have the money for sometimes a product. So sometimes we make a policy at every show we give away give away a couple of tubs to somebody that we believe needs it or wants it. Like, especially if I've seen a single mom that's buying one for the kids, but she really wanted the jalapeno for her. She wanted the hatch for herself. I'm giving that mom a hatch because, and I tell her, hey, write something nice on social media. And because this is part of why I do it. I do it because I want to love people. And community happens when we share good food with each other. So we give certain ones away, and I love it when my assistants, when they find somebody that they really want to give something to that really needed it and couldn't afford it. So, how do we deal with bargain hunters? We'll give it to them and we say, send me a social media post. So we get benefit that way.
There you go. That's a great trade-off. Before we go to the next question, Lisa, were there any here?
Yeah, so there was one in the chat, and Lynn might be able to handle this because I know she's been on the event marketing circuit for quite a long time. So what's a good way to use events to get customers if you offer a service instead of a product?
Offering a service instead of a product. When I was doing consulting, what I would do with them is I would give them a bonus. For example, I would say, you can have 2 days for the price of one, and that would get me in the door, and inevitably they buy 4 or 5 more. So or give them you should always I would always give a free hour or 2 of consulting. And if they liked it, then they could go to the next step. But it's giving them something for nothing, or showing they just want to know, are you worth money I'm going to spend? Now, there's some people who legitimately just want to take your time. You can figure those people out, but offering a free 15 minutes. And just like another thing I'm about to do is I'm about to make an ebook. Ebooks are free, and ebooks are a great bonus that people do to get people engaged with their products, and they're not too difficult to put up and provide. Or a free handout. That's a great way of getting people in too.
Great. Kimberly, did you want to jump in on this?
Yes. So one of the things I do is I try to get them to sign up for my newsletter. I have a rewards program where I give discounts, and they typically get samples with their orders. But I have been doing this long enough where in my particular world, I don't give out a whole lot of just free products, because doesn't necessarily bring the return as far as a purchase. But I do try to get their information, to get them to sign up for my newsletter and get them in my rewards program. And then once they make a purchase, then I sample.
Mm-hmm.
Right. That's a great way to go about it.
Can I add on to this? And can I share my screen real quick, and I can talk through on how, look at this. Okay, can y'all see that?
Yes.
Okay, so some of my, depending on, there's a whole realm of different kinds of veterans events. So the one with the girls in the cowboy hats, right? This was an event put on by Syracuse University out of New York, and they were coming to Dallas. So we were welcoming them to Texas, right? So, the outfits mean a lot, and the displays all, laid out and stuff. So on the other event, this was just a little show it was actually in a casino in Oklahoma. It was the VFW. But see, the setups are all different. How I get them. Okay, so those were classes on the right one. What I do, I have somebody in my booth. You see these tickets right here? It's just it's my banner. And I go, hey, I give out the tickets. I'm in the open. And I go, hey, go get your free pair of combat boots. And so they go and can you see that? But if you noticed in my display, they have to go in to sign up for the newsletter, because the girls are waiting for them. They're going to go, oh, well, hey, sure, you can have your boots. Can you sign up your email? they just come, they're overwhelmed. So they sign up for their email and then they look up and see the jewelry and they're going, oh, and they always will buy more, even if they buy the boots for somebody else. And that's another thing that I wanted to add is on customer experience, when they come in, who are you buying for? Because people place more value if they're buying for somebody else than if they buy for themselves. And and that actually works. So you just go, who are you buying for today? And then my other tidbit would be the pricing. And so when you lay out your pricing, don't put a dollar sign and don't make them what we would say dress right, dress and even, because then that means a transaction in the mind. But it'd be more of if you just put the pricing kind of, however, but without the dollar sign, it creates an experience. And so that's how we get them in there and we get that email address.
So Tracy, maybe you could share a little bit about how, because we do shows, we do some vendor shows, how, because we provide a service. So maybe how you, and you've been on the circuit for quite a while anyway. So maybe you could provide some insight into providing a service at a trade show or.
Well, really, and really this, I think everyone here does this, but we haven't really talked about it yet, is being personable. I mean, you need to get out and talk to people. I can't tell you how many shows that I go to and you walk by a booth. Hello, that everybody that's there really needs to be interactive. And I've gone to shows and I had one man telling me, you're not going to sell any of those. You're not going to sell any. And you know what? I sold a ton. So a lot of this, and even just a service, is personality, getting out and talking to the people, finding out about them is how your service could help them. But I really believe one of the best things you can do is be personable and talk to people as they're coming by. And I think that really helps with the service as well.
I agree with you, Tracy, on that. My girls, they do not sit down and they do not have their phone. I just, because it's a distractor.
Yes, definitely.
Tracy, one of the things that I use when I'm doing the markets is people love to have something they can take with them. So my business cards go, but I've been in the process, I'm doing like little recipe cards, which will show the product, but show how to use it. And then on the back of the card is all the stores that they can buy the product in. But people love recipe cards. They love things like that. And having it in their hand, they'll keep a card with a pretty photograph a lot longer than they will a small little business card. So.
Oh, great. And Kimberly, what do you find helpful just when you're at a show in general?
Just engage, like you said, engaging and making sure that they leave my table with something. If it's a business card or informational flyer, sometimes it might be the schedule. But making sure that they feel welcome to look and letting them know that it's okay not to buy anything.
Right.
You know what I mean? So this is a warm, safe space. Hang out, look. And they may come back next time.
Right. Or refer someone over to you that they know you're looking for. So with you guys, how you had mentioned a little bit about giveaways, Kimberly. Do you do anything like that?
Do giveaways. I work with a couple of nonprofits. And we'll donate either proceeds of a particular item or gift boxes for raffles to raise funds, depending on what that is, and that are local. And then I'll do them for, like, I'm coming up on my 10th anniversary in April, and I will have 10 giveaways in April where I partner with other makers. Okay. And a couple of nonprofits in there. And so I try to do it that way. I don't do a ton, but I try to make sure they're done with purpose.
Okay, great. I love that. Lynn, you had mentioned some giveaways earlier that you do at yours as well.
Yeah, well, I give away the cards for recipes. I give away occasionally, we'll give away tubs of cheese, but I also found that I have like little 4-ounces that I'll give a sample to somebody. Like if I've, got especially a large family, I love giving them an extra little sample of something to have for lunch, because sure enough, next time I'm at market, they're coming back and they are buying that dill pickle that they got a sample of. So, and for us, it's, if I can just get the product in their mouth, then I know if I can just get them to taste it, 3 out of 5 people will buy it if they can, or they'll buy it next time. So that's part of it's just important, you know, tasting is believing in my world. So
Great. And Lisa, do you do any giveaways?
It was just the combat boots
Okay.
that, these are alloyed.
Mhm.
So I mean, there's still the combat boots, because I like to say that, you know, we served our country, we served our branch, but we earned our boots. But it has our logo on it. So if they know, they've seen the product, and they usually, and they do, they'll come back and get them for gifts, the actual sterling silver or stainless steel, after they leave the show, because maybe they're with their spouse and they want to give it as a gift, but they don't want to buy it in front of them. And so I'll get a lot of that. But they have the boots with the logo and in the website to tell them where to go. So
Okay.
that's,
And is that somebody was asking how much some of these giveaways are? Is that one that's
30
not as
cents.
expensive?
30, this would round out to about 30 cents.
Okay. Great.
So that, to me, that's worth going in and doing that 30 cent. It's a 30-cent investment per person.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great. And Lynn, are with your samples, do you ever give all those away at the end of a night so you don't have to take them home, or do you take them?
Well, sometimes it all depends. No, but for the small samples, they usually have a shelf life, so I can use them the next day, or I can take them to one of my stores and let them use them there. And I love putting them in the stores so people can just sample there.
Okay. Yes, I know people always love to sample food.
They always do it. And when I was running booths, because I worked like the National Computer Show and the Radio Television News Directors Convention, when we would do those shows, we always had food in the booth, because chocolate got people over. They would grab it, they would eat it. You know, they'd go for a piece of chocolate before they go for a pen. You know, even though you want them to take the pen, the chocolate will get you there long enough while they're eating it, and you can at least talk to them. So it's
Okay. Great. So, all right. Well, let's get to our last one. And then after we do this, open up for questions again. So what is the best advice you can give someone that is just starting to go to events? Kimberly, do you want to do that one or start?
Sure. I would say give yourself some grace and know that your business is going to change. You know, I think back to my very first market. It was very small. It cost $9 to be there, and I made $11 that day. And so, and that was a really long time ago, but I also was very frugal and didn't overinvest. My first tablecloth was a $5 sheet from Target. And so, you know, it's just to be able to get out there and experiment, and know that things are going to get better, be consistent, try new things, and ask for feedback and be open to hearing it.
Mm-hmm.
Great. What about you, Lynn? Best advice for someone starting out?
Best advice is know that the way you start is not the way you're going to be a month, 2 months, 2 years from now. And it's, don't get paralyzed by trying to make things perfect, because it's, but go to markets, that you go to other markets and see how people are doing things. I've had 2 people that actually worked with me at farmers markets that now have their own farmers markets businesses in different areas, but they came, they worked alongside me, they learned how to do things, they learned how to put the samples, they learned how to organize the table. So, you know, and offering your services to work for someone for free might be a great way to figure out how to prepare for yourself and save yourself time in the future. So
Right. Great. Thank you. Lisa, what about you?
So I would say, like, if you're first, I know I took mega pictures of places. I went on Pinterest to see what a booth was supposed to look like. I couldn't, I mean, combat boots jewelry, how do you do that, right? I mean, it's combat boots with an elegance kind of thing that I was feeling in my heart. And so actually I had my sister-in-law did it for me. One day she just came in and said, grab everything out of your attic from the military. And that's what I did. And she really put my display together and made it work. I couldn't see it. I mean, maybe I was too much into it and what I wanted and everything. But so, hey, ask somebody for help that maybe is in there, but do go around and look what displays draw you in. My display, the way my sister-in-law set it up for me, it draws everybody in. So don't think you got to have all the idea and ask people for help, or what their input is.
If I could add one other thing about the display is I am very sensitive to color and bright colors. A lot of people just do black tablecloths and stuff, and that's fine. But I have a specific bright colored theme that matches my logo, and people can see my booth and the colors across, from 20 booths away. So they went, oh, you're here. Because when you're doing events, they put you at different places every week.
Mm-hmm.
And the other thing is signage is getting pop-up signs are really good. That's a great investment so people can see you from a distance. So it's just don't skimp on signage for yourself.
Okay, great.
So, like with the tent, like I do a lot of tent events, and mine has a camo net over it. And it's hard to put out. But boy, does it attract the attention, like, oh, there's a camouflage tent. It's not just painted, it's the actual camo nets that we use in the field.
Right.
Okay, great. Did you want to add something there, Lynn?
Well, yes, in terms of switching gears to, there's events where you're promoting your products, and then there's events like big industrial events. Like for me, I'm going to the Fancy Food Show because I'm going to go do research to try to promote my product because I want to be in that show next year. So for me, it's a worth time investment to go look at that show. But I could spend a fortune going to shows and never get to one. So when I go to this show next month, I know who I want to see. I've done my research on who's there. I'm looking at all the things, and I'm strategically planning my time so that I can make the most of it. And you're darn tootin', the moment I get the business cards for the people that I want to network with, I'm going to follow up with email as soon as I get home with them. So it's knowing you can make a mistake by spending too much money in doing a show. Let's say if I did that show this year, it would be a waste of money. I wouldn't be able to deal with the sales I'd have in. So knowing the right timing for the bigger shows is important, and when to go, what to do, and how to do it.
Right. Great. Donna Lisa, what?
So we had, so you mentioned chocolates, pens, but what other promotional materials that are fan favorites for attendees?
It depends on whether you're dealing with men or women. I mean, it's just like you have different things, and things that are bright colored, that are functional. Like years ago, people would give, everybody does pens, but people love little stick-and pads. You can give them a stick-and pad with a tear-off note that they can use. I mean, Post-it notes, those are wonderful. Practical things like when we were at the food show with all the Go Texas thing, they were giving away meat thermometers. Oh man, those were flying out of there. So there's literally millions of types of products. You just have to know your demographic, who's going to be there, what they're going to want, and what would you like? What are you going to pick up? What are you going to think is cool? Ask your friends. You'll figure it out.
Yes, we had a really great comment from Michelle. I think she does that as her business. And she said things that are different make people ask others, what booth did you get that at? So sometimes not getting the fan favorites is sometimes a good thing. So that's.
Yep. Well, I know we have a favorite, or one we give away, and I think Lynn held it up earlier. So,
gonna need one of those.
It says the name on it. My girlfriends, we have wine nights with these.
So, but I do know people, and for those that don't have a big budget, as I said, with the candy or something, I can't tell you how often, you know, and you guys mentioned too, people stop by just for something like that. So what else do you have? Oh, I think we had a question earlier I saw, and somebody was asking about how much these events cost. So those that
Yes.
you guys do regular, what are kind of the ranges that you have to pay for an event?
I go to some markets right now that are just beginning and it's $0. I have others that are like $10, but usually the crowd doesn't. Most of the people with such as red tents or Four Seasons markets, they're $40 a day. Gun shows are $90 to $110 for the weekend. So that's your range of events. And then you go to the big shows like Kimberly, you go to probably a lot of the big craft shows that are way higher than what I'm dealing with.
It depends. On average, I go to farmers markets, which were about $20 per show. On average, during the holiday, I will do those bigger shows, and they can be anywhere from $300 to $600.
Yeah. What about for you then, Lisa?
So, and even for the veterans events, if I'm invited, I don't, well, some of them I still do have to pay and everything, but I won't go over $100 for a show. I won't do it. But that's my standard, you know, because I know I can go to another veteran show. So I'm not really worried about that, you know, because I have to take in, I'm all over Texas right now. So I have to drive when they invite me. And, you know, I might have to have hotels or, you know, get up real early, and then I'm, you know, and then I have my girls I have to bring too. So, you know, I just really have to take in those costs and stuff. So, but I won't go over $100.
Okay.
And I think Lynn mentioned earlier that some of those big shows are not the same. And the majority of those really big holiday shows aren't happening since the pandemic.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the crowds, I mean, the crowds have not been there at a lot of the shows. It's been like crickets. I mean, this last Christmas, and maybe I'm sharing too much, but this last Christmas, November and December, my sales numbers were so far off. And it was because the news media were telling people, you're not gonna, there's shortages. There's not gonna be, you're not gonna get the electronics. You're not gonna get the iPads. You better get to the malls and get it. So what happened is everybody went to the malls, which
Spend all their
normally would be
money.
coming to the markets to buy from us.
Mhm.
All of our sales were down because of what happened on the media. And like the last day, all of a sudden sales went up, but it didn't make up for the other 4 or 5 weeks that normally would have been higher. At least that was my experience in the markets I was at. I don't know what you guys experienced, but you know, life happens. You just have to flex with it.
Yeah, I got lucky. My jewelry's in the Military Women's Museum in Arlington, Virginia. And so with the media, I looked at that. They're telling people, you know, go and do all this. So I actually did not look or anything for any event during the Christmas holidays, which I try to hit some military posts like spouses events and stuff, but I didn't even go there. And my saving grace was huge orders from the museum and stuff. But yeah, the media, I mean, even now, you know, with the numbers and, you know, statistically, people don't want to get out.
Mm-hmm.
So we have time for one last question. This one is from Jasmine. So how are you able to separate yourself from other businesses in the same field as you? She says she's in a personal care field and it seems like the market is oversaturated.
I will tackle that one. Since the pandemic, more and more people have started from home businesses. And we are finding that everything is oversaturated. And so really knowing who you are as a business owner and your product and being able to speak to that while caring for and continue to develop new relationships has been key for me. There are soap makers are a dime a dozen these days. and being able to speak to my products and what's in them and why I make natural products really has made a difference.
One thing that also is helpful is social media. Using social media to tell your story, to form relationship, and to give value to your customer on a regular basis. I mean, I tell them ways to use the product. I tell them, I try to make things fun. I try to give joy to their day through my Instagram and my different posts, and, you know, not only give them some ideas for food, but just inspire them a little bit. And the more you can form relationship, the relationships, just like Kimberly and Lisa said, that's gold. That is the gold that establishes you as a brand and will establish your long-term value to them as a community. So it's just use the tools that you have.
Right. And that will separate you from the others.
And you know, with it, maybe I'm probably an advantage for the personal relationships. It's easy for me because when people come into my booth, you know, I step out because my girls are going to run the show in there, but I'm able to talk and I'm like, hey, you know, what branch of service were you in? And I can go into that kind of detail and start getting information from them. And then they're talking to me. So it's pretty easy for us to, well, we know the veteran community can connect like that real quick, you know, and stuff. So I would say I'm blessed at an advantage of that with the personal relationships because they remember you.
Yeah, I'm sure they do. Oh, well, that has been such great information from all of you and so helpful, I know, to those who are new to events or that are trying to select events or what to do next. So thank you guys so much for all of the great information that you had. Donna Lisa, what have you got?
Yeah, so thank you so much. So our next event is Women Rise, and it is the 8th of February, and it will be with, it's Are You Standing in Your Own Way? Or Are You Standing in Your Way? Then Move, MOVE, with Deidre Kindred, your healthcare nurse advocates. That one is virtual. And then our next quarterly event is tentatively scheduled for April 21st, and we are bringing back a fan favorite. We are bringing Amber Fletcher with Fletcher's Original Corny Dogs, where this one is, we're believing that it's going to be in person. It has to be in person or we're going to have to postpone it, because she brings out the food truck. It's going to be all about running a food truck and the different things that she's learned. And she always provides an excellent event and a lot of great information. So that's tentatively scheduled for April 21st. And then in May, we'll be having our Saturday workshop, and it will be on customer service, and more information will be coming out about that shortly. But we've got a lot of great things going on. Tracy, do you want to tell them about our grant?
Yes, well, we do now have our largest grant for people to date. This is the Advancer Grant, and it is for established businesses. Priority is going to be given to those that are in manufacturing, life sciences, technology, etc. They need to have 3 to 20 employees, and it will be $25,000. So we're really excited about that. That can really make the difference of a business getting to its next level. So if it's not you, please share that information with those that you know are in the field for that.
And I just put the link to that information in the chat for people. So
great.
Well, that's all for tonight. Thank you all so much for coming. Kimberly, Lisa, and Lynn, thank you so much. You guys knocked it out of the park. We just thank you for sharing your experience with us and our community.
Thank you, guys.
Enjoyed.
Thank you for having us.
All right, stay warm out there.
Great to see all of you. Thanks again.
Will do.